Okay, Swiss yen. Can see finally broke this zone. Huge bullish candle. Oh man, I love Swiss yen. Probably my favorite pair. So if we break this down, you can see it pretty much did exactly what I said it would. Came up to this zone, pulled back. Didn't pull back as far as I thought, but it pulled back right to this 163 area. So again, price loves whole numbers. And as soon as it got down to 163, it just boom right through. So I mean, that's perfect. That's textbook. I love that. So if you're able to get in that position, I mean, that's awesome. Anything below 163 here would have been great. I knew price wasn't really going below 162 unless it completely, shattered the structure, but which would be very unlikely. And you can just see it really push this zone. And I mean, you could have entered even right here, just based on this candle pushing higher into this zone, closing above all these ones. You can see that the momentum is really there and it really wanted to break it, so then it finally did. So looking at this now, it's close to halfway to its monthly move. It does about 650 pips a month, and I think it's done about 350 now, so pretty close to half of its monthly move. So now we're going to look for another entry though. So let's say we missed all of those. We don't want to buy it now because I mean it's moved up quite a bit. So what we're going to do is look for a pullback, some sort of area that would make sense. So looking at this, what we got to do is just find some wicky areas. So this is on the 4-hour. So there's these ones. And then what I like to do is look at the retrace. So because this hasn't retraced at all, actually it retraced right here. So that's good. So then you're looking for a retrace. So something like this. From here on in, price I don't think has retraced. No, it did there as well too. But the thing is, like, those retraces aren't really super significant. So I would actually just look at this whole segment. I would look for a retracement of this entire segment just to be on the safe side. So then you're literally looking at between the 382 zone and the 618 zone. So the first thing that comes to mind, so I like this area, this one that I highlighted here, because this has the top wicks here. So this would have been, this zone demonstrates an area where price was pushing up, pushing up, pushing up, pushing up, and then finally broke. So this area could function as support now when price comes down. But on another consideration is we're going to consider all these factors. It's been our best entry ever. So another thing is that we can see where price has already tried to come down. So these candles demonstrate the areas where price tried to go up. This is where it tried to go down. So it tried to go down here multiple times and rejected. So this is an area that's already protecting the downside. You can see there was some other wicks here before, and then it finally broke this area and then sat above it. So as far as looking for a buying position, this is your area, because price has already found that anytime it comes down here, it gets bought up. So again, once price breaks, so like this upper area here that we had drawn, once price breaks an area, then it, this was resistance. Then once it's broken, it functions as support. So you do have this area, which is still valid, but then you also have this area, which is valid, because price already tried to go lower than this and it couldn't do it. So both of these are liquidity zones. This is more of a support zone, and then this is more of a liquidity zone because it already got bought up when price was here. So price did get bought up in this area, but it got bought up as it was already going through, whereas this area got bought up when price was just coming back down into it. So that might be a little bit confusing, but maybe you'll understand it, maybe you won't. Kind of confused me, but I mean, it makes sense to me. But so I would just wait for both these zones, and then you look at this main area. So you got these two zones to consider, and then you got the full retracement segment of this move, right? So the full retracement segment. Now you're just looking at zones on zones. So 50% to 618, you can see, boom. So not only does the 50% to 618 zone line up perfectly in this area. You have these previous wicks here that price got bought up, and these wicks created their own zone, plus the 50% retracement zone is within the same. So this is my ideal area. Anytime you can have zones overlap like that, I mean, it's fantastic. So a lot of confirmation. So that is what I'm looking for Swiss yen here. I'm looking for price to come back down to this area, and then we're going to look for another long position. And if you already have some, great, you can add to it. I would just look for price to come into this area. I would look for a whole number. So what we can do is find, I believe it would be 163.5. So price likes zones and it likes whole numbers, so which I guess would also be a zone in itself. So 163.5, 163.5. So this is your area here. 163.5 is my primary entry as of right now, before I see anything, before price even comes down here. That is what I like, but I will consider it right at the top of this zone. I just know price likes whole numbers, so I think yeah, this is probably your best bet. It'll probably start retracing too once price breaks this little low area here. I mean, there is a chance that it doesn't retrace, and if it comes down to this area and doesn't break it, then I mean, you might be looking for a long entry right at this area. So those are both considerations here. I mean, to be honest, guys, Swiss yen doesn't really pull back, so I would actually be more inclined. I don't want to as much, because I would like to get a better price. I'd like for price to come down here to buy it, but there is a very good chance it retests this area and does not break, and then just goes higher. So probably set an alert for this area here just to see what it does. And then if it doesn't break this area, oh, I got too many alerts. If it doesn't break this area, then I think it's a good buy there too. So, and again, you got a nice whole level here. I'm gonna mark it out. 165. Just because price loves whole numbers so much. So do I. So I gotta keep them in mind. We gotta mark them on here. So yeah, if price doesn't really want to break 165, then it's probably just gonna be straight up to 168.5 up here. So those are our considerations here. So trade idea one is to wait for price to retrace back into this area, ideally 165. This is the 50% to 618 zone, as well as the most recent previous structure break, if you can call it that. So like you can see, there's a bunch of resistance here, and then it broke. So but I do think it's going to retrace a little bit deeper if it decides to retrace. And then you're looking for those real main liquidity supply zones, which would be right here where all these wicks are on this 4 hours. So on the downside, you have to look at the downside ones because they're more relevant than these topside ones. The downside ones show that that's where buyers came in after price tried to come down. So price was already making its way down, and everyone decided they wanted to buy it here. So these areas are more significant than the top ones in this situation. So I do think Swiss yen is a great buy. I mean, if you're not setting stops and you're just looking long term, I would buy it now. The Swiss, I think the Swiss is at like 5% too, so interest rates. So you could literally just buy this and hold it, and you'll make money. So, and as far as the Swiss yen pulling back, I want it to pull back to this area, this 163.5 area. I don't even know if it will. You can see just, for 5 days in a row, just a ton of bull momentum, busted through this zone, busted through this one. So, it barely pulled back. It had all month to pull back, like the last 2 weeks, I guess, the start of the month, and it just didn't. It only came down to, 162 area, right? So, and then just boom, straight up. So Swiss yen doesn't really pull back, but I'm hopeful. I'm hoping it pulls back to this area so I can get a better price. But if it doesn't, then it's just probably going straight to 168.5, and we'll look to buy it around 165 if it comes back down and rejects this little area here. then that is what we'll do. So that is Swiss yen.